Pour yourself a parsley soda because season 2 of A Series of Unfortunate Events is an entertainingly dark ride that's positively jam-packed with Easter eggs. Yippee-ki-yay movie lovers, it's Jan here, and today I'm going to run through some very cool things you might have missed in the new series, including references, cameos and connections to TV shows, movies and the original books. Obviously spoilers ahead if you're not up to date with season 2. At the start of the first episode, Mr. Poe mentions how he simply can't put down a book called The Pony Party, which if you look at the jacket seems to be the first in a series of cheerful stories about the luckiest kids in the world, written by Lonnie M. Setnick. However, in reality, there is no Pony Party book, it's just a reversible cover for hardback editions of Lemony Snicket, the unauthorised autobiography, and Pony Party author Lonnie M. Setnick is an anagram of Lemony Snicket. If you've read the original books, you'll know that Olivia Caliban is a rather different character in the TV series. In the novel, she only appears in the 9th book, The Carnivorous Carnival, where she's known as the fortune teller Madame Lulu, and she turns out to be the person who's been giving Count Olaf information on where he can find the Baudelaire orphans each time they escape from him. And she's the one who reveals to Olaf that Beverly, Elliot and Chabot are actually Violet, Klaus and Sunny. However, in the TV show, Olivia Caliban pops up at the start of season 2 in the Austere Academy episodes, where she's a librarian who later joins up with Jacques Snicket to try and help the Baudelaires, and later again she takes on the alias of fortune teller Madame Lulu, which is a rotating position for any VFD agent staying at the carnival. By the way, the Caligari Carnival and Madame Lulu's Caligari Cabinet get their names from a silent horror movie called The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. As Mr. Poe drives the Baudelaires to their next guardians in the village of foul devotees, he talks to them about Count Omar, which you might think was just a slip of the tongue.
Thanks to the constant coverage in my wife's newspaper, I'm sure that Count Omar will be captured in no time at all.
Olaf.
Yes, I meant to say Omar. Besides.
However, in the 7th book, The Vile Village, the Daily Punctilio newspaper gets Count Olaf's name wrong, calling him Count Omar, which leads the people living in the village of foul devotees to repeatedly refer to Count Olaf as Count Omar, much to the frustration of the Baudelaires. Although the VFD villagers in the TV series don't do this, Mr. Poe does refer to Count Omar a couple of times in part 1 and part 2 of The Vile Village.
But you of all people know that Count Omar was far from innocent.
Count Olaf.
Yes, see, even the name just gives you the shivers, that bushy eyebrow and the tattoo of that eye on his ankle.
And the Daily Punctilio also gets Olaf's name wrong in several articles. In part 2 of the ersatz elevator, there's a clever callback when, to gain access to the inn auction, Jacqueline recycles the trick that Count Olaf played on her in the first season by using the fake name he made up to get an appointment with Mr. Poe.
I have an appointment.
Name?
Haircut.
Haircut.
Yessica Haircut is my name.
Yessica Haircut.
Yes. Yessica.
This is Larry, your waiter. Did you get past the bouncer?
Not yet. But he has to let me in. I'm on the list. Yessica Haircut.
When Lemony Snicket is in the tunnels, there's a sign for denouement, which is a nod to the Hotel Denouement, the main location of the 12th book, The Penultimate Peril, which will be part of season 3. The sign is also a reference to triplets Ernest, Frank and Dewey Denouement, who own that hotel. And the word denouement is a literary term meaning the final part of a film, play or story that brings together strands of the plot. Also, when Klaus and Violet are searching for the Snicket files at Heimlich Hospital, there's a file labelled Slippery Slopes, which is a nod to the 10th book, The Slippery Slope, which will be adapted in the first episodes of season 3. Of course, at the end of season 2, the Baudelaires also literally find themselves on a slippery slope. There's a lovely meta moment in episode 9 when Neil Patrick Harris drops a reference to his previous big TV show, How I Met Your Mother, which ran for 9 seasons and was set in New York City.
If she's so good at fortune telling, why does she live out here in the hinterlands instead of having her own television show in the city?
I tried that for 9 years. Look where it got me.
On top of that, season 1 featured Harris's How I Met Your Mother co-star Kobe Smulders playing the Quagmire children's mother. And season 2 brings another reunion for Harris and a former co-star when Olaf confronts Nathan Fillion's Jacques Snicket in the village of foul devotees. Harris and Fillion previously worked together in Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, where Harris played an aspiring supervillain to Fillion's superhero Captain Hammer. And they're not the only shows that Neil Patrick Harris once starred in that get a hat tip this season. In episode 8, when Count Olaf meets Dr. Faustus, who's actually Klaus in disguise, Olaf tells Faustus that he looks terribly young to be a doctor. Which is funny because as a young actor, Harris's breakthrough role was playing a teen genius doctor in the comedy drama Doogie Howser, MD, which ran from 1989 to 1993. Oh, and by the way, the name Dr. Faustus is a literary reference to a 16th century English play about a man who makes a deal with the devil. Esme Squalor gets to wear some pretty memorable outfits in the series, including one that seems to draw inspiration from the villainous Cruella de Vil. And later, when Esme tells Madame Lulu that she was forced to make her own dress from a few scraps of tent, and then the camera reveals holes cut out of a tent, it's reminiscent of Disney's Enchanted, where Giselle made herself a dress out of a set of curtains, leaving an outline visible in the remaining material. Now you might think that's a stretch, but Enchanted was produced by Barry Sonnenfeld, and he's the showrunner for a series of unfortunate events. Indeed, Barry Sonnenfeld also pops up several times in the show, including in a cameo as Aunt Josephine's husband, I Can't Whistle, on a poster for Barry the Pinhead at the Caligari Carnival, and he also provides the voice of Mr. Tamerlane during Mr. Poe's phone conversation about the pony party.
Oh, you there? Focus, Poe. What about the Baudelaire?
Ah, yes, the Baudelaires.
Put down the book.
I'll put this down.
And speaking of cameos, Neil Patrick Harris's real-life husband, David Burtka, plays a rather vocal audience member during the carnivorous carnival episodes, and they're joined in the season finale by their actual children, Harper and Gideon. The makers of a series of unfortunate events are obviously big fans of director Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, because they already included a nod to the famous horror movie in season 1.
Here's Shammy.
And they pay tribute to it again, not once but twice, in season 2. In part 1 of The Hostile Hospital, Administrator Babs is wandering the hospital's corridors in the dark when she's frightened by the two identically dressed white-faced women who suddenly appear ahead of her saying,
"Hello, Babs. Come and play with us."
This scene is a clear hat tip to the Grady sisters in The Shining, who appear to young Danny asking him to come and play with them as he's cycling along the hotel's corridors. In the second part of the Baudelaire story at the Heimlich Hospital, the henchperson of indeterminate gender smashes down the door to a room where Violet, Klaus and Sunny are hiding.
Here I am, Nurse Lucafont.
Which is a parody of Jack Nicholson's famous line, "Here's Johnny." Now, what were your favourite Easter eggs and moments in the show? And what are you most looking forward to in season 3? I can't wait to read your comments below. You can also tweet me at Jan_Gilbert and at FlickCity. Remember to like, subscribe and turn on your notifications if you enjoyed this video. And you can click here for more videos you'll like, including my season 1 Unfortunate Events Easter eggs. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers!